Welcome to the Legacy Through Land podcast, where we're dedicated to empowering you on your journey to land ownership and management. I'm Tyler Markham, your host, and each week we'll dive deep into the world of land investing, management strategies, and the transformative experiences tied to owning your very own piece of dream dirt. With our expert guests, inspiring stories, and actionable advice, we're committed to helping you become a better land manager, hone your investing skills, and start building your family's legacy through land. Now, let's dive into this week's episode. We hope you'll enjoy.
Welcome back to the Legacy Through Land podcast. This week, if you can't already tell, if you're a viewer and not just a listener, I am not at home. I am in Illinois. I am at the second gun season out here braving the literal storm with the Orange Army. It is all of 6 degrees today and 8 inches of snow. And this is the true stuff when people say what separates the men from the boys. The men and the boys are getting separated actively. And I'm not sure if I'm a man or a boy today because it was cold enough to really question your decisions. But found time, and I'm really appreciative that Mr. Terry Peer found time and was patient with me that we got to connect on some really great topics today. So today's guest is Terry Peer. I'm excited about having Terry on. If you do not happen to know Chasing Giants with Don Higgins and Terry Peer, you probably live under a rock. So there's that. You should definitely check that out. But it goes without saying that Terry has made a really, really great impact in what I would cautiously say the outdoor community. But I will add the word community because he's been able to create a really positive ripple effect with the way he ministers and talks about God and wears his faith on his sleeve. And we get to talk through his foundation, Lester's Feet. We get to talk through his career. We get to talk through him becoming a wildlife consultant and not just watching what Don does, but being able to take that on himself and become a consultant. And I know of several people that have used Terry and really love the plan. So tons of benefit. We're going to jump right in. Hope you guys enjoy. All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Legacy Through Land podcast. If you're watching visually, you can already tell that it's not my normal setting. And I don't believe for Terry, it is his normal setting either. We are both outside of normal. I am in Nowhereville, Illinois, and it is real cold. I believe Terry is in Somerville, Florida, and it is real not cold. So, as hunters, obviously, we wouldn't have it any other way to be in magical 8 inches of snow. I've got some standing beans I'm hunting. So enough about me, guys. I am really honored to be able to have Terry come onto the podcast. Of course, if you're listening here, you guys have probably listened to, or if you haven't, stop this right now and go start listening to the Chasing Giants podcast. But he and Don have really shaped what I've been doing in my career and in my life for the past several years, way more than they know. So it's an honor to get to come on here, Terry, and just be able to ask you questions of who is Terry Peer and how do we get to today. So thank you for being with me.
Well, thanks for having me. It's very, very cool to, while I'm taking a break from hunting for a couple weeks, to be in South Florida, spending time with my wife and family, to reconnect and get to do something with my friends in the outdoor industry. So Don and I are continuing to record every week. My dad and I on the Chasing Assurance podcast, our religious podcast, we continue to record every week. But yeah, it's still plugging away here from 85-degree weather, overlooking a canal and a pool and hot tub out my back patio. So sorry for the weird decorations in the background. It's not my normal studio suit.
I echo that sentiment. I am in a very historic but very nicely updated Airbnb in a small rural town in Illinois. Terry's 85 degrees. I am 5.8 degrees. So it's a literal contrast. But Terry, before we started recording, I was just telling Terry, there is obviously so much to cover here with how in the world do we get to today where if you don't know Terry, some of the cliff notes that I would bring up that I'm hoping we'll dive into is Terry, like myself, has had some major career moves. Some I think could have been self-prompted. Some probably weren't self-prompted. And Terry has always led from the front. I mean, I've watched and listened to what they've done, and his faith always guides wherever he is going. But today, rattling off some of these accolades, he's partners and is part of several successful outdoor brands, several successful outdoor ministries, I would say. And like you also said, part of a new flourishing ministry tied to the outdoors with his dad. If you guys don't know the name Don Higgins, you're probably not even on this podcast. So go figure out who Don Higgins is before you listen to us anymore. But you're fortunate to call Don one of your best friends. And I just would love, Terry, to kind of go back in time for what comes to mind when you think of some of those defining chapters in your life that shaped you to where you're at today. How do we get to the Terry Peer we know today?
Me as a person, or my relationship specifically with Don? Where do you want to start?
Yes. Whichever one you want first.
Well, I think Don and I are the great example of yin and yang, or the opposites that complement each other, right? I mean, it would be the equivalent of the manager that kind of guides Steph Curry, the best 3-point shooter in the world, or Scotty Scheffler, the guy who takes care of making it happen. Don is Don, and one of the most probably, when you talk about intellectual property in business, the stuff that's in his head, it's very hard to get it out of his head because he just assumes everybody understands it and everybody knows it. But what he has worked his entire life at to develop what I think he pioneered, habitat management to mature bucks. There's a lot of people that are in the habitat management side. There's a lot of people that kill big deer. But he's really one of the few people. There's a handful of these folks that have pioneered understanding exactly what a mature buck, 5.5 years or older, getting that herd to be optimal to reach the genetic ceiling that it can be, whatever it is, wherever it is, and then adjusting the habitat to be able to pretty much chip shot hunt them. And put all that together. So I am definitely, that is not my skill set. I've got to learn from him over the years, but really what my focus has always been on is business. And I was very fortunate to meet my wife after my freshman year of college, when I didn't know if I was even going back to college. I was a horrible student. My reading comprehension levels are in the basement. I mean, I'm an absolute horrible student. And I met my wife. I got a factory job in between my freshman and sophomore year of college. I moved back home because my freshman year of college was just such a bad experience, horrible grades, and met my wife at that company. And she pretty much got me through undergrad. I mean, it was to the point that she helped me do my class schedule so I could ride to school with her. We both commuted and lived at home. If it wouldn't been for her, I mean, obviously I was falling in love with this lady, so I wanted to spend as much time with her as I could. So that meant going to school, right? And if it wouldn't have been for that, I would probably still be working in a farm store, factory, construction, probably would have gone into the trades, honestly. And as I started finishing undergrad, I stayed with that same company that I got the summer factory job with. I just transitioned over to the marketing department as a co-op, and I was a business major. So really, if you look at my education in business, I was surrounded by unbelievable people that ran businesses. So what I learned wasn't through college. I have 7 years of college between a couple degrees, but my education really came through meeting, mentoring, following in these meetings, traveling around the world, and getting exposed to such a high level of corporate strategy, branding, marketing, that's where kind of what I learned, right? And when Don and I I had some friends that had gotten me in. My grandfather first introduced me to hunting. Then I met a couple buddies in college that were just ate up with whitetail hunting. They wanted to film. It was back in the Roger Ragland, Bill Jordan, VHS days. I'm a lot older than you, so
Hey, I remember the VHS days.
I was fascinated with the business side of the outdoor industry. And the first year we filmed to try to make it with our own show, I hated it. I absolutely despised it. It wasn't what I wanted to do. Self-filming really wasn't a thing back then. You had these humongous cameras that you had to pretty much have a guy in the tree with you. But I fell in love with the business side of it. And then through those opportunities is where I met Don. But, I was just, I don't think I'm a smart person, but I think I can relate to people. I can strategize. But the most influential thing that happened to me as a young man in that corporate job. So you got to remember, I'm 19, 20, 21 years old, and I'm surrounded and I get to attend meetings with guys like Roger Penske, who the company I was with was affiliated with. We're talking companies as big as Caterpillar. We're talking Detroit Diesel, Boeing, Lockheed Martin. I'm involved in, how we're going to do business with these folks and partner with them. So very early in my career, I think that's really what set up how my mind works today. And as I went through life and different strategies, where the personal side really became passionate about is when I saw a strategic change in my career where I was focused completely on how can I get a promotion, how can I make more money, when I had a couple pivotal points in my life that said, how can I use what I'm doing right now to be a blessing to someone else? How can I help their family with what I'm doing? I was in very beginning, early stages of management at that point, and that's when my career took off. That's when I really climbed the ladder at a much faster pace because I made it about others. And when you apply business practices, in my opinion, to be a blessing to other people or help other brands, your brand or what you're doing with your career quickly follows that. And, but in a nutshell, where I'm at today from a business person, from a strategy person, that's probably, if can say I'm everybody kind of thinks what their skill set is. That was shaped and molded by those early relationships and meetings and dealings that I had in the corporate world that I'm very blessed with, and had a almost 30-year career with that company. So on the side, I got to meet people like Don, but my education really came through work, not college.
Yeah, I think just about every guest that I talk with that has this entrepreneurial, just this grit about them, whether it comes through corporate or, not corporate, all possess the same thing. And they say, a lot of my education came in the trenches, not in school. And, it's
Especially when you're a bad student like I was.
yeah.
I mean, I'm horrible. I'm just such a horrible student.
I think I got a 21 on my ACT. All 4 years of high school, took it 4 times. And my mom was less impressed with that as I was, because I'm like, I think clearly, Mom, that's the ceiling that God has for me. 21, like that's it. And, she's like, but you're taking more classes. Like, I don't know.
You were 4 ahead of
Let's
me, buddy.
go.
17 was my
I think
best one. I took the ACT 5 times and fell asleep during the test 4 of the 5 times.
I always heard if you just signed it, you would get a 14.
If you have, if you have younger high school people listening to this right now, the theory that you can put C on every answer of the ACT and still pull either, I forget what they used to say, is either a 12 or a 14. It doesn't work.
You tried it.
I think that one I got an 11. I literally went in and put C on every answer, and I think I got an 11.
So there you guys have it. There's the cheat code. You have to get 11 minutes into the podcast to know Terry just gave you the ACT cheat code. What we're not recommending, and I don't know, maybe we are. I don't have a ton of a filter either, but what we're not recommending is that you tell your parents that we said you should just quit school and then start being mentored by a baller. We didn't directly say that. So,
well, but here's the thing. I would have never gotten that opportunity at the company I was working for if it wasn't for the university program to co-op me. There would have been no pathway without college for me to have the co-op that I was working beside the president and vice president of a very large globally manufacturing company. So it was still a necessary step, but it's how we learn,
Yep.
right? And my style of learning is not through reading. My style of learning is through doing. And all of it had God's plan always falls so much deeper than what we can ever imagine how things work. It's just, are we going to let it work or are we going to try to do it
Yep.
ourselves? And I look back at my life and just time after time, you stumbling, you falling, you doing stupid stuff, the stuff that's come out of my mouth and the stuff that I've done through my life. It's a wonder that it's all worked out, but that's just a full testament of God's grace and how it's all ended up. We're blessed so much more than what we deserve.
Well, I cannot echo that enough. I mean, my daughter, my oldest daughter is me through and through. We had two daughters, and then we had a little gap, and now I have a third daughter. So I have 12, 10, and 3. And the 12-year-old is 100% me, and the 10-year-old is 100% my wife. And I very much parent the 12-year-old different. And I tell her all the time, she's like, Dad doesn't like me. And I literally tell her, I am trying to work out of you what I know is coming for you because I already did it. And I'm trying to work it out of you to help you. It won't serve you well running your mouth to the teacher like I did and you're doing. It was not going to serve you well. It's just funny. I forget whoever said, like, did you ever wonder what it would feel like to parent yourself? Because that is 100% what I think of when someone says, yeah, I don't know how I made it this far. And I'm like, well, I think I'm getting a chance at a redo, but in a female body. So we'll see. Jury is out for sure. But Terry, so a lot of, I think in the outdoor world, I know Terry Peer from the outdoor world kind of close the doors to the outdoor world for a bit. Where did your first business, where did you first get started in business? And then, how did that kind of transition to where you're at today? If you kind of remember the chapters along the way.
Yeah. Yeah, no. So, like I said, I worked for a company called Mazak, Mazak. They manufacture CNC machine tools. So these big computer controlled machines that factories buy to build something. So it could be automotive engine. It could be a artificial hip or knee. It could be a mold that they make water bottles. Everything that cuts metal uses these machines to cut it to form something. So they would buy machines from our company and make their product. And so started there when I just turned 19 and co-op through the undergraduate. I got married the day I graduated college with a marketing degree and went full time with them. And I had some very good mentors. One of them being a Japanese guy said that you can't work in this industry unless you know this industry. So a very difficult thing for a 21-year-old college graduate that thinks he's just got the world figured out was taking a step back and going back and working through every department of that company in a training program. So I had to work in field service. I worked in the factory, ran, even second shift for a little while, ran every machine they had, learned them. I wasn't very good at it, but it at least allowed me to learn it. And then worked my way up. Obviously part of that training program was in sales, then went into management and got up to where I was in the higher up management of that company. And, I can put on this false persona or try to make it something bigger than what it was. But after almost 30 years, most people have several career changes by the time they're 47 years old. I had worked in the same place and I grew up in front of all these people. And as the people who kind of took me under their wing had all retired and it was all just becoming heavier and heavier. If I'm going to be perfectly honest to everybody here, I was burnt out. I was overwhelmed emotionally. I was in just a really bad place. Spiritually, I was in not a very good place. The corporate, where I was having to entertain clients 3 to 4 nights a week, be on the road so much. I just honestly was just overwhelmed, stressed out, and emotionally spent at that point in my career at 47. Luckily, we had some revenue and income coming in from the outdoor industry because many years earlier we had started building Real World and Chasing Giants had come. So I could use the excuse that I wanted to go and do all this other stuff and it was all my plan and I'm not smart of a business guy. But at the end of the day, I was just burnt out and in a bad place and needed a change. And I had the opportunity to go work for a small business in our local community. And my wife had currently gone to that company as their accounting controller. So there was an opportunity for me to I want to step back and work for a much smaller scale company, not all the political side. We were 1,000 people in North America where I'd left. And so I put my resignation in. Sometimes I call it early retirement. Sometimes I call it, but basically I left after almost 30 years of the corporate world and said, I'm going to focus on the small business. And my wife, get a chance to work with my wife. I thought that was pretty cool, but it just really needed a change of pace and went in and just dove elbow deep into this new job in October of 2023. By May of 2024, just 8 months later, it had pretty much the whole situation rapidly fell apart. My wife and I both got laid off the exact same day. So a lot of their management team were, because of different situations that were going on, or had lost their jobs. So we really went to a time where I thought, hey, I have a little bit of a security blanket with some money coming in from other businesses, but I just need a change. And I took that change and it fell apart. I mean, it literally kicked us out on the curb on one Monday morning.
And how long had you been,
The
Terry?
anger that I had.
How long had you been? Maybe you said it just a second ago, but how long had you been at the new change? Because I remember you talking about this on the podcast of
8 months.
Okay, all right,
8 months. And trust me, the people that supported this change, I said, hey, I'm going to do a career change. I'm going to do this with this company. Man, when people heard that, they were driving from all over the country to do business with us. The amount of support that I got from the Chasing Giants family to say, hey, Terry, we're going to come support you in your new venture, it was humbling. I mean, they came from long ways away. I mean, we had people driving from Illinois to buy product. I mean, it was insane. It was just so humbling that people, no matter what I would do, say, hey, we're going to support you in it. But yeah, it was only 8 months. My wife had worked there almost, I think, a little over a year, but I was only there 8 months. So, again, the relationships I had go back to that company that I worked for almost 30 years. The president of that company is a very dear friend of mine, a business mentor of mine. I was so upset the morning we got laid off. I just texted him. I was like, are you in town? I got to talk. He's like, come on up. I mean, just like that. It wasn't, come to my office. So I walk in there, dude, I'm just bawling. I mean, I don't know what to do. What did I just do to I got one daughter that's getting ready to get married. I have to pay for a wedding in 1 month. I got another kid that's in college, and then I got a senior in high school. And here I just put our family situation, where all of our eggs are in one basket for jobs and salary.
and literally
and we
all,
lost
both
it.
of yours.
And just, yeah, both of us at the same time. And so that day I went up to the president of Mazak's office, sat down with him. He dropped everything he was doing, just sat down. He's like, what in the world's going on? And immediately the first thing he said is, do you want to start tomorrow and come back? So you talk about just the weight. Okay, I can. Yeah. So a lesson learned for all of you people. This is exactly the story where don't burn a bridge.
100%.
Don't take the old country song, take this job and shove it.
Don't do that.
I forget. I think I gave, when I left there, I think I gave either 7 or 9 weeks notice when I stepped away. So, and we did a full transition plan. So people don't ever burn a bridge, because you never know when you're going to need it. And it comes into play even more as the story progresses. So he's like, don't worry about it. He asked, we were under a severance package. So we had a short period of time where we were able to still, and he goes, take some time off. Just enjoy your time. You can come back here and work. And he was actually happy. He's like, let's go get back on our plan, that you bailed on me for. We can re-engage, what we need to do. And so then the emotional side of that, I look back on it now, and this is where, my struggles as a human really kicks in. When that anxiety of how I take care of my family and provide for it kind of fixes itself and it's okay. The next day, my wife got a job offer at a CPA firm. She's an accountant. So, the next day she was back to work. It was like that with her. And it's like, okay, how blessed are we that we're in a position where we both lose our jobs and we could be back working the next day if we wanted to. So when all of those things happened, we knew that, okay, the money was there for my daughter's wedding. We'll be back working before our severance package is back up. So we got it. Then the anger kicked in, because that's really where I struggle with a lot of things. Is this was an outright, in some levels, I viewed it and took it as basically an attack on my family, with how some of it worked out. So then the vindictive spirit that comes out in me that I really struggled with came out. And it wasn't just a matter of, I want to go physically do something. It's, I have a skill set in the business world. How can I use that skill set to just,
let's go Liam Neeson here.
So fighting
I have
that
a particular
stuff,
set of skills.
yeah, it's like, yeah. And my wife is the most patient and gracious person I think I've ever met. And her example to me to just let it go, trust God, something's better is going to happen. Don't worry about it. And it might be go back to Mazak where I left before, but let it go. And as I'm just not wired that way. And I really struggled with that for a period of time. About a week later, I got a phone call from an old hunting buddy of mine. Everything comes back to hunting, right? So through that corporate world, so we were the manufacturer, and there's distributors around the country that sell the manufacturer's product, okay? So one of those distributors was huge into duck hunting, and he had a big duck lease out in Arkansas, out by Stuttgart, where you could go hunt flooded rice fields or go in flooded timber. Really good with dogs. I got to know him really well over 25 years. So he hears I mentioned on the podcast that we had gotten laid off. So that goes viral. Terry just went and took this new job, and now it fell on his face. And is he coming back to Mazak? What's he doing? So that goes viral out there. He calls me and says, so remember, he's a distributor for the company that I left. Okay. So he calls me and he says, hey, Terry, I'm 70 years old. I have no exit strategy. I want my people taken care of. I need somebody to come in, plug and play. I'll make you a deal you can't refuse. And I'm like, what? So you look back at it, I always was intrigued about having my own businesses and building a legacy. Like, that's the theme of this whole podcast, is build a legacy, providing opportunities for my kids if they want it, whether that's working, Christian service with the foundation or business or whatever. I didn't have that opportunity in the corporate world or even the place that I left. It was always something that I wanted to do. But there was no pathway for me to leave the big corporation and go to the distributor. They would have never allowed that. They would have never approved it. So by me leaving the industry for 8 months, it kind of created that pathway. But if that opportunity didn't end so abruptly and so quickly, I would have missed the window for this opportunity. So the timing pieces just lined up. So I was going back to lunch with the president of the big company, and we were talking about, am I going to come back to work for him? What does that look like? I said, hey, there's another idea out there. I got a phone call from, I'm not going to mention his name, but I got a phone call from him, and he wants to sell Casey and I his part of the company. And there's another 50% owner that's there and he's like, really? You need to explore that, and I'll support it. So in a matter of, boy, I'm going to get this wrong. And my wife
Well,
is around the
I
corner.
have a
She's over there
short-term
working.
memory, so
She might
I'm
have,
with you.
it was within like 10 days, but people are going to laugh at this, but I already knew the company. I knew the employees. I knew the business. I mean, because I worked at the manufacturer, right? So I could see all the numbers. It didn't take a lot. We did a full evaluation, knew exactly the purchase price, the terms, all of their assets, full evaluation in like 10 days. So within the time I got the phone call to the time I had to present a 5-year business plan to the manufacturer to get approval for the acquisition, it was literally like 10 days
Sheesh.
that we put this deal together, and my wife and I were able to buy 50%. There's another partner, but I bought the one guy out, and so we were able to buy 50% of the company. And that opportunity then creates generational legacy for us, that I could have never provided with an outdoor company, even as big as what they've gotten, or at a corporate world. So, I have 2 kids in business school right now. They will not be able to come work for the family business out of college. I'm not going to allow that. They're going to have to go work somewhere else for a period of time. But if they choose to want to come back to the business, they have that opportunity if they want it. If they don't, it's fine. We'll just navigate it as we go. So in a short story about how it started as a co-op with a manufacturer coming up in a company, leaving because I just was emotionally not in a good place, but then God using all of that experience to reopen up a business in the same industry with the same product, talking to the same people. I mean, it's like my job never changed. It's just I'm on the other side of the sales process now, and being able to acquire a business that, like the back of your hand, and have been friends with the employees for 20 plus years. Man, you can't write a book like that. It's just a total example of God being faithful, even when you don't think you deserve to be in as good a spot as you are.
I mean, this whole time, Terry, the thing that just comes to mind is but God through all of it. And I
Yep.
remember
Yep.
the feeling listening to the podcasts when you guys had said, "Hey, I've got it kind of tongue in cheek here. I get to work with Casey, but there's a lot of change here because of that, and we're taking a risk." And now, and that was a short-lived term. The thing that comes to mind as well is you're not giving yourself enough credit. Think about most people listening to this. Think about the idea of going back to your previous employer in emotional despair, distraught. Think about going back to your previous employer. Number one, that they even have interest in talking to you. Number two, that they even have headspace to want to be intentional with you. Or number three, that they would offer you to just come back, period. Number four, that the guy would support another pivot that you bring to the table. All of this speaks to what God can do in the relationships that he brings into your life if you listen to him and you are intentional with how you treat other people. I mean, Terry, that,
And that's the pivotal point, because every one of those relationships was never self-serving.
yeah,
I look at all of those relationships, and I'm not saying I'm this martyr and perfect person, but when you really try to live your life to where it's not self-serving, those relationships will go to war with you.
yeah.
It's just so different than when you're trying to navigate and structure every single move and pivot to what gains me. The full circle here, Tyler, is on November 3rd. The company that we bought is big enough that my wife now came on as the CFO of the company that we bought. So my wife and I are back working together again,
Oh
just
man.
like the original plan was, except now it's for ourselves.
Yep. Yeah. And that's
I
amazing.
mean, how great of a story is that?
So I got to ask, I have to clear the verbal air here. So You're telling me that, and I don't know what your ownership is if you have any of Real World, but let's assume you have some ownership in Real World. You've got some ownership. Now you're a consultant. Now, you've got maybe some ownership in Chasing Giants. You've got some ownership in a handful of things. So you're telling me, Terry, that you're not a multi-billionaire through the outdoor industry and that you don't just have unlimited amounts of money to buy
No.
anything you want and do anything you want? I thought that's what everybody in the outdoor industry was. You're just made of gold.
Oh, but I get a lot of discounts from companies.
Me as well. Let's
No,
go. Let's
to set
go.
the record, I think I th- I think that is I do want to actually make a comment here about that,
That's why I said
because I
it.
think that is a
It
misconception, and
is.
I don't want to I don't want to stay misrepresent it. So through some different seasons of Don, Don is the one of the original founders of Real World, and his original partner and him separated ways, probably in 2016, 17, and Don and Wes Delks bought out that original founder.
Yeah.
And then Wes sold out a few years later to pursue other things. Through both of those transition cycles, there was the opportunity for me to buy interest into Real World, and I did not, and for multiple reasons. But I'll say that the biggest reason is I've seen business deals go really bad.
Mhm.
And my relationship and respect for Dawn is so high for so many years that while Dawn and I do have other businesses together, I wanted to clearly stay separated
Yep.
as just a business advisor for Dawn
Yep.
and not be. I wanted to use Real World to take care of Don and Robin. People think that he's had all this money for so long, and the guy lived in a 750 square foot house for most of his life. Okay. He poured everything he had into deer hunting and didn't make a lot of money. Um, so I am not actually an owner of Real World. I am on retainer as one of their, whether you call it board members or business advisors, very involved in almost every decision. There is an ownership team that does have the ownership shares, which I am not part of. Don and I are 50-50 partners in Chasing Giants LLC, which is the holding company for a lot of different things, whether it's the media side, the consulting side, and we run all of that completely separate. But no, I get obviously a salary from Real World Green Prairie, which is now a bigger company since
Yep.
Real World acquired their whole supply chain to vertically integrate and have the agriculture side. So I'm on staff there, but don't retain ownership.
Yeah, and Terry, I wasn't meaning to ask you to put out your organizational chart, but I think I get the idea that you're a lot like me. I mean, I'm a very open book, and why I say that statement tongue in cheek about everybody just thinks in the outdoor world that you just become overnight success, and must be nice to have your money, and that's why I love to just talk through the grit and the grind and the try, fail, adjust, and all through that. Why I think I've resonated with you and Don so much in my own life and in my own career is it is all harnessed on the foundational beliefs of our faith. And that is the background and the backbone of the trajectory of whatever we're going to do. I heard a business coach one time. There's a guy that I brought in to kind of work through my organizational structure and culture's core values and cultural study, just all the things inside of our business to grow. We even did quarterly meetings together, and there's something he said that I never forgot. One of his core values was to do a good work to support God's great work. And I just always thought, man, that truly, at the end of the day, for all of us to hear, well done, thou good and faithful servant, that's all you want. That is the measuring stick. And the way we do that is
Yep.
in our day-to-day interactions and in whatever medium and channel in which we feel God has called us to do. So I want to jump to another one, Terry. I have heard a ton about Lester's Feet and this foundation that you've created. If you could kind of start us back to why did you do it? What was the impetus for it? And where's it at today? Listeners, I'm telling you,
Yeah.
you guys say it so often, and this is about to be an incredible example of this is so much more than deer hunting. This is so much more than dirt. Where does Lester's Feet come from?
Yeah. So, not too long after we started the podcast, so Don came to me and said, "We need to start a podcast." Well, at that point in time, I was still working for the corporate side, still trying to navigate a lot of branding pathways at Real World, trying to really elevate that company and push it. And I'm like, I don't need something else.
Well, it even surprises me you're saying he said that.
Don is always.
I would have thought it would be the other way. I would have figured you guys would have had forced him into it.
No, he was all about it, and he was at this real weird pivot where he had, if you remember back, I believe it was the 2017, he killed 400 inches of antler on back-to-back hunts. He killed Smokey and Trump, and I killed a 10-and-a-half-year-old a buck that same year. That year was unbelievable, and he just didn't have an outlet for footage, the story.
Just long form, everything.
And yeah, he wanted a way to get his message out there more, to promote, I'll say it like it is, to promote Real World better and to promote his consulting business better, because he was consulting on properties not near what it is today. So it was like, we need something in-house captive. I mean, he could have gone and filmed for another film crew or team and had a featured hunt once a year, but it doesn't give him the captive narrative to really talk about what he does. And he's like, I want a podcast and I want you to do it with me. And I'm like, I don't want to be in the public eye. I want to run a business. I don't even like social media. I'd rather just be off of it altogether. And it was just literally a conversation for like 6 weeks. He just kept hounding me. And he's like, I don't want to do this with anybody else. I want to do it with you. And finally I said, are we going to talk about our faith? And he said, well, we're not going to avoid it. I said, that's not going to be good enough. I said, if we're going to openly talk about our faith and try to minister to deer hunters, I'll do it. But I don't want this to just be a commercial for Real World. I don't want it to be just let's make it about others. And he said, okay. So, man, we went into filming a podcast. You talk about not knowing what you're doing. I mean,
well, I'm currently there, so I know what it feels like.
I'm too embarrassed to go back and listen to like our first 5 episodes of how probably horrible they were. And still, honestly, we don't put a lot of high production. We want that kind of, our niche is that very raw, we are who we are type thing. So to get to the Lester's Feet thing, that first year, my daughter was a part of the fast pitch softball team at Georgetown College in Central Kentucky. And they had this fundraiser, and she came home and she said, Dad, we're trying to do this fundraiser for this family here in Kentucky. We're talking peak COVID time, that has 2 girls with leukemia at the same time. The second daughter just got diagnosed after the first one was in treatment. And the Ronald McDonald House in Cincinnati Children's is shut down. They got a rental house to hold the whole family, because there's actually an infant also. There's 3 kids. 2 of them had leukemia. And she goes, we're trying to pay their rental house for a month. We're trying to raise enough money as a softball team to raise. And I'm like, okay, what do you got to do? And she goes, I need to raise X amount of dollars. I was like, well, I'm not giving you that amount of dollars. I will match whatever you raise. So, it's me being the jerk of a father that I am.
I'm
sometimes
doing this with the cars. I've told my daughters.
Like, I'm not giving you $400. I want you to go raise this money and I'll match whatever it is, thinking I'm still going to have to give the $400. Right. Well, she goes out and like raises like $2,000.
And you were like, wait,
I don't know. I can't remember how much she raised. It was like, time out.
Wait a second. Look at the operating agreement.
I forget how the dollar amounts. but anyway, this college softball team was raising money, and we openly talked about it on the podcast. And after we got off the show and recorded it one night, we talked about it, and it was just a prayer thing. And it's like, hey, this is what's going on. And I was playing around with this CNC router at the time in the wood shop, and I made these. I'll have to send you a picture of this if you want to try to put it in post production.
Okay.
I made these little plaques that set on your desk that had the Chasing Giants logo in it, and it was slotted for SD cards, because I wanted something to organize all of the SD cards. And I'm like, we're going to sell these and raise money for this family. And man, you talk about, I was like, I can't make this many. I mean, people started saying I wanted them. And I'm like, I don't have the time or energy to make all this. Well, Don said, we can do bigger. And he goes, I want to raffle a hunt on my home farm.
Sheesh.
To somebody. Yeah. So there will be 2 bucks that cannot be shot.
Yeah, when you didn't put that in your daughter's money raise, Don said, "Hey, couple
Right.
caveats here."
So he's like, let's use Chasing Giants to raise money, and he called me and said, I want to do this like 20 minutes after we record. It's typical Don. He's got an idea and says, well, why isn't it done yet? So he's like, let's figure out a way to do this raffle. And I'm like, well, if you're stepping up and doing that, we can do a velvet hunt on my property opening weekend of September. I don't have the deer quality that Don has in Kentucky, but we can shoot velvet bucks. So, man, you talk about getting out beyond your headlights. Here we are trying to figure out how to do a raffle, which is completely regulated by the gaming commissions of each state. We didn't know anything. It's like, how do we do this?
I remember you guys talking about a raffle back in the day and saying all these regulations, and I was like, dude, there's a lot more to this.
And it's like, I'm sure there's enough statute of limitations now that I can probably admit we probably broke some type of law somewhere. Yeah. I hope a judge listening to this will appreciate what you're trying to do.
It was about your heart.
So the first raffle was actually to hunt on Don and I's home farm. And the winner came in and got to hunt, and we raised enough money immediately through donations in that raffle to take that family and say, instead of paying 1 month rent, we paid their farm. He was a farmer. We paid their farm payment, their home mortgage, and the rental house for a year.
Sheesh.
We just took that entire burden off the family so they could take a leave of absence. And through that process, I was like, I really just felt this calling that, hey, this is the reason God had us start this podcast, is look how the hunting community rallied around one specific need. If we could create a business model to be good stewards of the money donated to where people were 100% sure that it was handled correctly. We're all jaded about nonprofits right now, right? Yeah. It's like, are we paying for somebody's beach home?
Yep.
Actually, I'm sitting in Florida. This is not Lester's cheap money, people, promise. But how can we create a business model and use the Chasing Giants podcast to be the advertisement for that foundation? And I have a really bad habit of telling Don enough information that I can get what I want, and I don't go into too much detail. And I told him, I was like, hey, I'd really like to continue this. Let's figure out a way that we can use it and maybe form a foundation. And he's like, yeah, fine, sure, whatever. And I didn't even talk to Don about it until we had already hired an attorney to navigate.
There's a $20,000 startup, but we'll cover that later.
So we were able, in the meantime, our home church, that we had a board meeting with our home church, and our home church that my wife Casey and I were going to basically set up a benevolence fund for us to run the money through, so people could donate money to the church for this specific ministry. And that's how we operated for a short period of time. It was during COVID. I hired a nonprofit attorney in Lexington, Kentucky to help navigate it, because the government was pretty much shut down. and she warned me. She said, this was after we did that for about 10 months. Chris Yates of Victory GMC or Victory Auto Group and Brian Kraft of Midwest Land Group, two of our biggest sponsors on the Chasing Giants show, said, hey, do another raffle this year, and we're giving you a brand new half-ton truck to raffle off.
I remember this. I literally
we got it
remember
in our budget. Raffle it off. And we're like, we're not even a nonprofit yet. We can't get this thing approved during COVID. It's like, well, you got to figure it out
That
because we've
truck might as well
already
not be
allocated
titled
this
because
truck.
this is hot.
Yeah. So that's when we hired the attorney and trying to get this pushed through with COVID. She's like, there's no way we can get this done like within 11 months. And I'm like, well, we got to find a way.
You're like, so you're telling me there's a chance.
They're telling me there's a chance. So she said, well, you're going to have to find some very influential people and some big businesses to basically state that they can't support you unless you're nonprofit and you expedite it through. I'm like, yeah, no problem. I was like, how many do you need? So,
man.
This is not name dropping, but this is, so Don does some land consulting plans. We're not allowed to talk about them let's just say for some very influential, high profile professional athletes and very well-known people.
Yeah.
So I called
one
Don
of them is not
like,
me,
hey,
guys. I just
here's the gist of it. So I was like, if you can go get basically some celebrities that we work with to write a letter saying we're legit, you want to participate and help us, but we need this done. And then I went to the corporate world. So back to all those companies that I knew from my job, Lockheed Martin, because we have podcast listeners in the executive staff of these big companies. They wrote letters. So I sent within like 48 hours a stack of letters to the attorney and said, here you go. And we submitted it and we got our nonprofit status done in like 2 weeks over the Christmas holiday.
During COVID.
I mean, it just went right through during COVID. So the name Lester's Feet was decided. Don didn't even know what I was. Actually, my wife didn't even know until I'd made the decision. But I called it Lester's Feet because my grandfather's name was Lester Schickel, and he was like my childhood hero. So he was a big man. He was like 6'6", wore size 15 shoes. And I look back and like he grew up in a really bad home life. He was abused by his stepdad. His biological dad was not there, and his stepdad abused him. And then so he was so big as a teenager, he lied on draft paperwork and went into the Navy at 16 years old. And he made his mom sign this paper that she thought was for school. And it was really the draft paper. So he dropped out of school, went into the Navy, and was a gunner on an amphibious assault boat in the Pacific. So I mean, you see those videos or those movies. My grandfather at 16 years old was sitting on the front of an assault boat driving up on islands in Japan. Came back and was drafted as a pitcher for Major League Baseball, pitched in the minor league organization for quite a few years, and then went into law enforcement, and he farmed and was a deer hunter. So the only thing he could have done was be an astronaut, and he would have had all the childhood heroes,
Yeah, Buzz Lightyear.
But his the crazy part is my dad's father was a minister, and my Lester was not even a Christian until very late in his life, but his heart and about servant leadership and taking care of others was always there. It's just his faith. I mean, with what he grew up with at home and then the war, he was in a really bad spot with God for a lot of years. And it wasn't until his heart softened, late in life that he gave his life to Christ. And having to pick up a 6'6" guy and carry him up in a baptistry so we could baptize him. I mean, it was probably one of the biggest joys of my life.
Amen.
So I wanted something that my family could pay homage to my grandfather. And the marketing mind of me is, what obscure enough could I find that people would say, what's that about? Or what's that mean? Or they remember it, but still paid tribute to my grandfather. So Lester's Feet popped in my head one day, and it's just talking about following in the footsteps of my grandfather. So, so then told Don what we were going to name it, and he's okay. And we created a board of directors, volunteers that, so the foundation itself, the way I have it set up in the bylaws, as long as it's named after my family, no one can take money out of this as a salary or stipend. So it is 100% volunteer. So the people that are working with these families are my wife that does all of the accounting and taxes, myself as the administrator and legal oversight. No one takes any money out of this. Every dollar that comes in goes back out to families. And we sat down and we talked to social workers at hospitals and found out where the gaps were. Like if somebody has a big hospital bill and they need to go back to the hospital for a kid, the hospitals can't refuse the care of that kid. And they'll stretch out $10 a month payments for eternity if that's what it takes. What really happens that we found that there wasn't anybody in the space is when a family has a sick or injured child, it's not like an adult being sick and being in the hospital. They have to stay with that kid. Well, that means quitting their job or taking medical leave or FMLA. So there's a reduction of income. And the way most people live their life is they can't just quit work for a period of time, right? So we found that people were losing their houses. They were having to sell their house. They were getting their cars repoed and all of this financial stress while they were having to take off work to take care of a sick child. So we stepped in, and the first 3 years of our foundation was strictly to identify these families and say, hey, we're going to pay your house payment for 3 to 6 months, whatever that situation is, or we're going to cover your car payment or pay your car off or whatever that is, so you can focus on that child and the care. And the board members that work with these families just did an awesome job with that. We lead up to a couple years ago, Dawn's daughter was diagnosed with breast cancer, Andrea. And if for those listening that haven't seen the hunt video called The Buck for Babe, is BABE, he basically called his shot with this buck and had this whole plan for this hunt. And then his daughter gets diagnosed, and his emotional capacity for deer hunting just completely fell apart. He still ended up shooting the buck, but it told the story of his daughter battling breast cancer. So that year the board kind of met quietly where Dawn didn't know about it. And we were so inspired by Andrea, his daughter. Man, you talk about a beast. Andrea is an absolute warrior in how she battled breast cancer.
Is this Corey's wife? I met Corey at Real World
Yep.
a while back.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I was able to pray with him, and
So
it was awesome.
Yep. So if you weren't at Shipshewana, you don't know this story. So we're going to debut the Babe video in front of everybody because it's mostly an Amish crowd. So they've never seen the video, right? So Don and I are going to do a live podcast. Steve Shields and I meet at his house and we film an alternate ending to the Babe video that Don doesn't know about.
So Don doesn't know about this now.
Don and I are in the back of the...
Well, we might have to cut this portion.
Yeah. No. This is a couple years ago. He didn't know we were going to start this with the foundation. So a couple years ago, we're all standing in Shipshewana, and the schedule says we're going to play the Babe video, let everybody watch it. Don's already approved it, the video, and it was real emotional. He wanted to tell the story to honor his daughter. And had Corey and Andrea brought the whole family in. They knew about it. We got their permission first. And and Don gets ready to walk up the aisle to go up to the stage to do the podcast. And I grabbed his shirt and I said, it's not over yet. And at the end of that video, in front of everybody, we announced that we started the Andrea Hamilton Fund out of Lester's Feet. So not only do we help sick kids or injured kids, but the same methodology for families navigating mom and wife with breast cancer, where that income from that, mom or wife goes away while she's navigating that journey in honor of Andrea. So Lester's Feet's grown a lot. Still the same founding board members run it. Very close personal. You guys hear me talk about Austin Razor and his wife, Dan Pfeiffer and his wife, and then my oldest daughter who was on that softball team. Her and her husband help with it, and then my wife and I kind of oversee the administrative, and she does the accounting. So we're still plugging away. I don't know how many millions we've raised and distributed, to be honest with you. I should know that when I get interviewed like this.
It's a lot. Let's just say it's a lot for everybody listening. It's a lot.
We just continue to help families, and we pay bills on behalf of the family. So the reason we do that is it's not to be derogatory, but families who are dealing with the trauma and anxiety of a sick child or wife, they don't always make the best business decisions with money anyway. So, and we want to make sure that we honor and are good stewards of the donations. So the way we vet everything out is we vet the family, make sure there is a need, vet that need out, and then we pay the bill on behalf of the family. So we actually write checks to the mortgage company or to GMAC or Fifth Third Bank, wherever that's at, so that every donor knows that the bill is going where it was intended to go. And inside of our bylaws, we do have a couple different kind of caveats that if something falls out of those to breast cancer or sick kid and it's the right thing to do, we can evaluate it as a board and vote on it. I don't want to take a lot of time, but just two really cool stories.
And I'm about to tell you how your foundation, how small of a world it is. Your foundation put a roof on a house for so. I'll say this, but you were inside of my circle and you don't know it yet.
Okay. So I was sitting in church one day, and our church had sent a mission team to Sri Lanka. And I didn't even know where Sri Lanka is.
I was going to get ready to say,
I don't know
don't
that
ask me.
So, they came back, and they've been over there serving at this abused children and orphanage over there on a mission trip. And they came back, and like one of the immediate needs was that they needed to raise money because the landlord of this building in Sri Lanka was basically going to sell it, tear it down, and they had to find a new home. So all the relocation to save these kids and these battered women, they were asking churches in the U.S. to figure out how to do it. And the lady that was on the mission team, the last one that got done talking, she said, if anybody knows a way that we can help with this, we need, and I think the number was $22,000, $24,000.
Yeah.
We need to come up with this money like right now. So I don't usually like texting in church, but we had just gotten contacted by a donor that had donated within like $1,000 of what they needed and said, here's my charitable tax, I want, and dude, it was like within a very small amount of what this bill to buy a whole property in another country. So I text the guy and I'm like, hey, immediate need, orphans, battered women in Sri Lanka, any interest in, because I don't want that kind of money. And he's like, absolutely. I don't need to hear any more. I trust you. Immediately during church, I'm texting the board, and by the end of the church service, we had full approval to proceed with this. I walked straight up to the mission team and said, let's make arrangements. If you can guarantee me a safe way to transition funds that it goes and I see the title deed transferred over, we're going to buy an orphanage and shelter in Sri Lanka for this mission.
Yep.
You talk about that was a crazy one that was outside of our normal kind of pathway. We had a situation not too long ago where a family was adopting a child, and the biological family, after they had fostered the kid for 6 months, decided they wanted the kid back. So the grant money that they had raised to cover the adoption costs was basically pulled out, and they got it assigned to another kid and didn't have the money. We stepped in and said, we voted on it and said, yep, we'll cover it. And my wife and I last week before coming down to Florida, got to sit in the courtroom and see the judge change the name of that little baby to It's Forever Parents. So you talk about humbling, man. It's just story after story after story that these things come up where God connects a lot of people. We've only done like 5 roofs, so I'm not sure which one of them. I think I know a couple of them,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure which story you're going to bring up. I'm excited to hear
Well,
that.
I'll tell you just quickly. I'm glad you got through. I'm glad you led the way through why you started Lester's Feet, because I had always assumed it was your grandpa. And my grandpa
Mm.
is single-handedly.
I cry all the time on podcasts. Don't worry,
the
man.
it, it was
Let
the
her
same.
go.
And
Yeah.
he I told someone yesterday, literally, I forget who I was talking to, and I was talking to a bank. I don't even know how this got going, but I told the guy, I said, I don't know how we got to it, but I said, look, I all I have at the end of the day is my own reputation to protect. I have my own pillow to earn every day. And I remember the time that I lied to my grandpa when I was 10. And I told him that I had brought all the fishing poles back from the pond, and I actually thought I had, but I didn't. I missed one. But I was too scared to tell him. I was just going to go get it. And I lied and said I brought it back. But I told him in that example, I said, uh, I'll never forget what it felt like to lie to him and how it changed me. Um, so I've listened to your guys' podcast for years, listened to the stories and the impact that Lester's Feet has made. And I've always thought, I'm pretty sure Lester is Terry's grandpa. And so, anyway, I'm glad you led through that because go you. Um,
Well, he's the one that first took me deer
Me
hunting.
too.
So there's a lot of ties. My dad didn't
Yeah.
hunt. My dad's a minister,
Same thing.
just
My
retired
dad
as
never
pulpit
hunted.
minister. So my grandfather was a huge outdoorsman. He's the one that got it into it. And basically my relationship with him, I mean, I used to, there's always that social media post every year is who's your first text message to when you shoot an animal. If I could go back and have some of those times, because I would call my grandpa after I shot
Yeah.
every deer. He didn't have text
Yep.
messages or anything, but
Yep.
yeah, now we just say a little prayer with my grandpa every time. But it was he was such a special man to me, and to I don't know, my kids are so different. I don't want to force them or put the pressure on them that says, "Hey, you all got to take this over." But if they feel led after I
Yeah.
can't or I'm not here anymore to continue that, my oldest daughter, I'm really surprised she's not on the mission field somewhere. She was taking international mission trips, before she was even out of high school. So she's on the board now. You talk about legacy. If this creates something that she can do that she's passionate about to serve others, her and her husband have that ability and pathway for it. So obviously that's not the reason we do it, but a lot of very important lessons that I want my kids, seeing, whether it's watching my wife and I as an
Yeah.
example or seeing the difference they can make. Yeah, it's been a wild journey with all of it, but Lester's Feet, how people have rallied around it, knowing that there's something bigger than deer hunting. I think God's used that to help grow the platform, because obviously the content that Don and I produce is not good enough that we should get the number of follows that we do. I mean, it's really very low production quality, and we ramble on and get on political rants every now and then. So it's got to be something bigger than deer hunting, because I think God's just using it to connect a lot of good people that don't know how to
Yeah.
help. And Lester's Feet is pretty much. So I will tell your listeners, this is super secret, top secret,
Uh-oh.
only released on this
Let's
podcast.
go.
So Yeah. So Austin and I, who Austin's on the board, him and his wife, we are traveling to South Texas the third week of January to hunt on a 10,000 acre low fence whitetail hunt to vet it out, because in February our plan is to announce our next year's fundraiser, and that is a all inclusive whitetail hunt with Don Higgins, Terry Peer, Joe Miles, and Emerson Day doing a private concert around the campfire every night. And I don't feel comfortable going down there not seeing the operation,
Yep, I get it.
seeing the
100%.
accommodations. So I need to go down there and take video footage, all that, so people can see exactly what they're. So Matthews, our bow partner, they're already on board. They're like, yes, let's do this. You're going to get a brand new bow to take down there and use.
That's awesome.
So we're dealing with all of the compliance with the gaming, with raffles, website security, all of that stuff to comply with the gaming commission and getting our licenses while we're vetting out this place. So your next opportunity to raise money for Lester's Feet, the prize is going to be sitting in hunt camp with Don Higgins, Joe Miles, myself, and Christian music artist Emerson Day around a campfire every night. In deer camp in South Texas, January of 2027. So it's going to be a big one.
Dude, that's so good. Emerson Drive. You could have labeled this, Terry. You could have
Emerson
just
Day.
said, "Oh, Emerson." Yeah, Emerson. Sorry, Emerson Day.
Emerson Day.
You could have said, "We're hosting a concert for Emerson Day," and then Don just happens to be hunting in the area, and you just happen to get a hunt with Don and Terry and Joe.
Yeah.
I like this.
So,
I like this. This is really good
yeah.
stuff.
So this is a crazy story. So Emerson Day, I'm sitting on a plane in Charlotte earlier this year, and just one of those seasons, you probably get it with the stress of, the property management that you're doing and all the projects, working with the banks, working with clients, potential, you're selling, you're habitating, all that stuff. I was just in one of those funks one day, and I'm like, is all of this even worth it? And I got my ear pods in like you do right now, sitting on a plane. And, it was one of those times where we're delayed at the gate. And I was watching a YouTube video, and it switched to like Christian music, your recommended playlist. And this song comes up, God's Not Finished Yet, by this
Yeah.
lady named Emerson Day. And I hadn't heard it that I remembered. And the lyric of that song basically said, you woke up, you got work to do. God's not finished. That's the stupid sales guy version of the song.
I get it.
But basically it's like, suck it up. We got work to do for the kingdom. And it was really odd. I listened to that song 3 or 4 times. I was like, okay, get your head out of the sand and let's go to work. So literally the following week, Don and I get a Facebook message from Emerson Day, and I hadn't put the two together yet. And she said, hey, here's a link to a Christian music podcast. Just wanted to say thank you. You guys are making a difference. Emerson Day. That's all it was. And I'm like, who is Emerson Day? I'm like, oh, it's the lady that sings that song. So we clicked the link to this podcast. She's on like a K-Love type podcast, on Christian music radio, and they're doing this rapid fire with one of the most fastest up and coming Christian artists in the industry. And one of the rapid fire questions was, what's your favorite podcast? And she says, Chasing Giants. It's a hunting podcast. And these guys are like, what? She goes,
Oh
no, my
man.
family's big deer hunters. My dad turned me onto this. I listen to it every week. They have a Sunday night prayer time devotional at the end of it, and they try to use it for ministry, but teach us all about deer hunting at a very high level. And I know it's weird that that's my favorite podcast, but that's, are you kidding
That
me?
is awesome. That
So,
is so awesome.
so through that, we start texting back and forth and kind of cutting up and laughing about just how all of this keeps connecting with new people. And middle of a miracle, another song gets released out on Spotify and everything. And middle of a miracle is a lyric that comes out of a season of Emerson getting hurt really bad in a hunting accident. And she almost died. She fell out of a tree stand and lacerated her liver. To tell her the story that she tells, she should not have lived through it. But it's basically how the ups and downs of life, you go through these wreckage, there had to be a cross to have a empty tomb. It basically was, if you would read the lyrics, it falls exactly in line with a mother standing over a sick child, or a father and husband watching his wife battle breast cancer and giving him that hope that even though this is, we're in the middle of a miracle that God's doing some way, somehow, this is going to be a blessing to somebody. And I'm like, Emerson, this song is like Lester's Feet's theme song. And she's like, yeah, what do you want? So she gave us full licensing ability to use this song wherever we wanted with all of Lester's Feet. And we've just, over the last, 6 months, we've gotten to know her and her awesome husband, Bryce. They're on the road touring. We've been to got to go to 2 of their concerts. So the cool thing is, think about it, when she writes this music, right? And this, say, a mother, it means so much to this mother to get them through. A lot of these mothers are sending Emerson a message. Thank you for the song. It helped me. Emerson is responding back. I have officially partnered with a foundation that can help you. Here is Terry's number. Please call him, and I'm going to put you in touch. So we've met now families at concerts. She reserves like a little green room area. So she invites that family to come to the concert. We have board members there. We come in, sit there, talk with the family and say, how can we work together? So she's out there now.
Amazing.
Actually, actually talking about Lester's Feet when she can and introducing us to families. And that takes a lot of the vetting process out, because we're connecting directly to the people that need the help using her voice. So, they had a break on tour the first week of November. I was in Illinois hunting and had an empty house and a couple farms. And I said, hey, I got a farm that doesn't have a shooter I'm willing to shoot on, but there's a couple of 140s on there. If you all want to come put a hole in one, you're welcome to. There's a house. So Emerson and her husband came and hunted with us. And we had dinner with Don one night and, all of them. So gotten to know Emerson quite a bit. And you talk about just an awesome spirit of wanting to serve the Lord. So when we pitched the idea and said, hey, Emerson, how would you like to hunt South Texas and do a couple songs every night around the campfire? She was like, just tell me when and where I need to be. And
That's
if we get to hunt,
awesome.
great. If not, she said she'd even
That
come
is
even
so
if she
awesome.
didn't hunt. But I was like, so yeah, the next raffle, she's actually going to be part of it, obviously spreading the news of the raffle. She had to meet with her like promoters and management team to make sure it was okay publicly to talk about deer hunting and all that. They were in full support of it and said, let's go. How can we do this for the kingdom? So we're really anticipating this next raffle with the following we have, plus the following that Emerson has. Obviously Joe Miles has a huge following too. So bringing all of us there and saying, hey, let's go have some fun, but let's raise some money. So we're working on the details now. I can't say I can say we're 100% doing this, but I
Yeah.
can't say when all of the permits will be done that we'll be ready to sell tickets by a certain date. We got to let some legal stuff go through, but as long as Austin and I go there in January and this is a nice place to stay, good food, quality of deer meets the expectations as advertised, we're proceeding with it. And our hope is by the Midwest Sportsman Classic, the show in Shipshewana in February, we'll be able to sell tickets starting at that show and run online. So, we'll send out notes to people like you if you'd be interested in sharing that when it comes
Yes.
around and
I'd love to.
spreading the word.
Yeah, man, I'd
But
love
yeah,
to.
that's
Any
that's
way I
our
can help you or partner or go alongside of it, I want to, for sure.
Yeah, so
I do.
that's the next big fundraiser. We're not giving away a truck; we're giving away an experience. So sitting around a campfire with Don and Joe, with one of the fastest rising Christian artists in the country, playing a guitar, sitting around a campfire for private concert every night. I think that's going to be pretty cool.
That is for sure. It's going to be a huge blessing. I've always wanted to hunt Texas. I've got a buddy that is just absolutely permanently got the itch, and he's a very accomplished hunter here in Ohio, and has killed in Illinois and Iowa. And I mean, he just tells me, man, South Texas is just something that's different. It's special, and he goes every year and loves it. So
Austin and
we'll
I are
see.
going to do it. So I've never done it either. It's on my bucket list. So I'm excited to go down there here in about a month and a half, about 6 weeks. We'll go down.
That is awesome. Well, it goes without saying, I think you and I could talk for 6 hours. I'd love the chance sometime if you're ever in Illinois, and I'm in Illinois, or even back home. I'm not that far from you. Let's have coffee sometime. But I want to tell you real quick, and then maybe we can close this loop on Lester's feet. The coolness of the impact of just kind of, listening to your podcast, hearing about Lester's feet, and then not really kind of knowing, hey, Lester's feet is in your backyard. I want to put this together for you. So when I flipped houses, I flipped a lot of houses in Charleston, West Virginia, and in the area, and then we eventually expanded to Columbus. But at one point, we were flipping houses in almost a 3-hour radius in West Virginia, and there's a contracting company that became very good friends of mine and did a lot of work for me, and they are called All Tech Roofing. And I
Okay.
heard on your podcast. I don't know if it's been a couple of years ago, but there was a need, and Alltech listens to the podcast, and they said, "Hey, we are happy to help for this." And Lester's Feet was able to fill that need, and Alltech Roofing was able to put the roof on. So it was really cool to hear that, because it was in West Virginia. I'm pretty sure it was in West Virginia, or maybe Southern Ohio, but I think West Virginia. And Lester's Feet was able to help fill the need. But one of my favorite contracting crews, guys that I didn't even know listened to this podcast, honestly didn't even know they hunted, didn't know any of that, go in and fill
No
the need.
kidding.
I thought that was really cool.
So,
Yep.
so that's crazy because we've had a couple roofs that we've had to put on houses, and a couple of them have just been leaks and rotten roofs that, it was just a need for the family that couldn't afford it. We get into that, or handicap ramps or stuff like that every now and then. But then there was another one that the kid was, I believe he had leukemia and was at Columbus Hospital, and a tree fell through the roof while they were away and came back, and it like
Sheesh.
destroyed their kitchen. And I mean, it was a hole in the roof. So there was a couple of them, but I remember that company that you mentioned that and
Yeah.
we had no connection with them. And I didn't remember it that they reached out to us. I think their name was recommended by somebody, and we reached out. And
Okay.
man, you talk about just people that, well, I can't remember the details. It's been too many years ago, but I just remember, I'm pretty sure we then used that same company for a second job, if I'm not mistaken,
He's
because
big
how
time.
they
His name's
handled that
Tommy
one.
Mays.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
he's a
we
good
were
dude.
given we got connected somehow, and you just feel like, okay, well then when another need showed up, I called him and say, hey, I got another one. I'm sending you go over there and bid it, and I'm sending you a check.
Yep.
And
Yep.
but man, the stories, man, one day either we're writing a book or just doing a documentary of the stories of these families about how God connects people. It's pretty insane.
Yep. Well, to put a bow on that, and Terry, I'll get through this as fast as we can. If you don't hear it enough,
Take your
your
time.
grandpa's. No, this one's short, but I hope you feel it enough. You may not hear it enough, but your grandpa's very proud of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Very proud.
Yep. So,
And that's all.
my
We got to go to
my
simpler stuff.
dad
I
and
can't
I,
do this all day.
yeah, um, I broke down and cried on Dad's podcast. We recorded a couple nights ago, and we do a Lester's Feet segment in the middle of that show every week, where we talk about a need or a family, or sometimes it's just a prayer request. And I had to share the news that one of my best friend's wife passed away of cancer. I'm actually leaving day after tomorrow and flying up for the funeral to be with him. and flying back down to meet my family. But I broke down like a baby trying to get through it, and I could have edited it out, but I just leave it. I don't care. it's I want people to understand. We just released on Chasing Giants TV, our YouTube channel, the hunt of the buck that I killed last year. And it was Don and I. It sounds really corny, and it probably is corny, but we don't care. You know how everybody names their target bucks these days? We
Yeah.
try to name our bucks Bible characters so that when we produce a
Yeah.
video, we get to tell a Bible story. So I named this buck King David just because of these seasons of life. And I think that the hunting industry is a great place with a lot of great people, but there isn't a lot of just real transparency about struggles, about emotions. And I produced this video to basically show that it doesn't matter if you're Don Higgins and on the top of the world, or where I'm at personally with my hunting journey. There's highs and lows that and it's no different than in life. And how when you're feeling that anxiety or that just uncertainty about what things are going on and that emotion, that's exactly when Satan attacks us. And whether it's with temptations of any sort, when you turn, it's easy to say, oh, I'm turning this over to God and I'm praying. But whether it's a journey of my career that I talked about earlier about, just being burnt out, thinking you're doing the right thing and it blowing up in your face, and then God proving you wrong with all of it and saying, I got you, to even your hunting journey, you're still grinding away with tags in your pocket. I'm in South Florida. I still got every tag in my pocket. I got 3 buck tags in my pocket right now, and I'm in South Florida chilling with my family for a couple weeks.
Yep.
The
I
highs and
probably
lows
should
of
be
this
doing
thing,
that.
you just gotta, that video that I produced, I mean, I broke down and cried twice in the video, and we didn't take it out. It's more than deer hunting. If anything, if anybody gets anything out of me, they know that I'm very blunt with what my words are, that sometimes come across as very arrogant and cocky, but I'm what I am, and I want people to see the highs and lows that we deal with through this, and not some pretend fictional, oh, we just have a booner behind every tree, that we have everything figured out. And I want the transparency of that to come through. So whether it's me crying on Dad's show or getting choked up with you here talking about our grandfathers and how much they meant to us, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, no, it's for sure. I love a good cry. And my grandpa, he couldn't cry. I always joke to people that knew him, knew this was true. I mean, we could be rabbit hunting and he couldn't pray over a bologna sandwich on the tailgate without crying. I mean, he literally couldn't start a prayer without crying. And
Yeah.
I think that's definitely where I get it. But he was a man's man. Like he was a man's man, and he was strong. And why I loved how raw his faith was, that made him cry anytime he thought about God, was just to show the contrast of how real a man's man can be and how real the love for God can be and how raw it can be. And he showed me. And I think I'm good. I'm on a high note right here, so I'm not going to cry. But he showed me what it's like to be strong in your faith because of how raw he was in his faith. He showed me that through the humility that would bring him to tears over
Yeah.
literally praying. I'm not even kidding. Praying over a bologna sandwich on the tailgate on a break of a rabbit hunt. And he would cry. And as a young boy, like I didn't understand what that meant. And then when you get to earn your own stripes, you start to feel the weight of what that was. It's just cool. It's really
Yep.
cool. So Terry, there's a hat that you've started to wear over the past couple of years that I'd be interested in diving into, more so for the listener's benefit. But I just want to acknowledge for you, I've watched you navigate this with a ton of humility and a ton of grace, but for a long time, and I'm gonna set the table for how I thought it looked, or how it seems, but for a long time, Don Higgins is arguably the greatest wildlife consultant and founder of what it is to create a habitat improvement plan. Like you said earlier, these were like an incredibly foreign concept until you hear about this guy named Don Higgins. And so for the longest time, there's Don Higgins, and we're always talking about how Don sets up farms, and we're all slobbering over his ideologies and his thought process. And, I'm 150 episodes into the podcast. And then, and then, and then there is the introduction that Terry is also going to start doing some consults himself. And I've watched you. And what I love about this, Terry, that I'd love to talk with you through, is I've watched you handle that with an incredible amount of grace. I've never, ever sensed or felt in your positioning that you always, like you said earlier, someone gets to go be in camp with Don Higgins and you don't even mention that you'll happen to be there. I know Rich Hickson, one of our mutual friends. I think the world of Rich. Rich talks about you all the time and all the plans that you have done for people in Southern Ohio and Kentucky and places that he knows that you will go at the drop of a hat most times and quickly, rapidly invest your time into someone else's farm with truth, with grace, with posture that you are. You are good at this. You are good at being a land consultant. So how has that journey been for you in, now Terry is also doing this and I don't even know today, Terry, what the whole core group, obviously I told you I've had Wes Delks on the podcast. I've had Wes to my property twice. Love Wes. Think the world of Wes, like really love Wes. But I don't know how big the ecosystem is in the Higgins consulting tree. I know you know Wes, know of Don. I haven't ever personally met Don. So what's it look like now, and kind of how's that been for you coming into I am a consultant?
Well, when we first started the podcast, and I was honest, I didn't think that I was trained well enough to do it. And I even mentioned it on the podcast because some people have thrown it up in my face. Oh, well, you said you couldn't do it. Now you're doing it. For the first couple years, Don wanted me to do it. And I think this is a legacy kind of Don wants for Wes and I to continue chasing giants after he's gone, to not be chasing giants with Don Higgins. He wants the brand to be bigger than him. And, we keep talking about legacy with our kids or legacy with whatever. I think that's how he feels this with Wes and I. So, at first it was, Wes really dived in when Wes bought into Real World. He and Don spent a lot of time, and Wes traveled like 2 years straight with Don on all these consulting trips and really mentored under him while I was running the business side. And Don kept saying, I want you to do this. You've shot really big deer. I've seen what you've done on your properties. You can do this. And I'm like, no, I don't think I'm there yet. So the interest was
Terry,
there.
I'm actively working through this myself. So I love hearing this because that's where I find myself. People ask me that all the time. I don't feel I'm there yet.
So I basically just said, I'm interested, but what's the bandwidth? What's the niche? Because the business mind of mine is I'm not going to commoditize what other people have already done. I want my own niche that I can stay in my lane with the time, resources, and so for about 2 years, I really invested a lot in learning from Don, more strategically, really buckled down and learned the agronomy side, which I knew the business side of Real World. I didn't know the soil amendment process. I had to really buckle down and learn the timber side. And then just looking at it's the stupid human version of how AI works. AI teaches itself as it goes, right? The more we're around and seeing Don's plans and walking the properties and seeing, okay, this little knob in topography, we're putting a tree here for 20 years from now for a specific reason. Seeing those ideas unfold, that takes time. That is intellectual property that has to be transferred over time. So just because, my top 5 bucks average in the high 60s and there's 22 deer heads in my room, I think that are 5 years or older, that's not enough for me to be able to go to somebody else's property and help them accomplish their goals. I had to build my knowledge core up to where I was comfortable doing it. And then I had to be mature enough to say, I'm going to talk to a potential client and look at his Onyx and look at what his goals are. And if I don't feel that I can align with him and accomplish that, I need to get one of our other consultants, Wes, Don, Bobby, somebody that has the wheelhouse in that skill set. So you have to be mature enough to know where your capabilities are and find the clients. It's no different than any other business decision, right? Find what your product is, what your niche is, and then find the people that align with that. Because the minute you take money from someone that you can't achieve that goal or provide that service to meet those expectations, then your reputation gets tarnished. So it was really easy for me to ease into it 4 years ago because I didn't have a lot of time. I needed to stay pretty close to home. So I started doing basically the Ohio River Valley. So the Kentucky properties, some Indiana, and then Southern Ohio. And then Rich and I, over the years have gotten to be closer. Rich does a lot of the same things Austin does. Is when I do a plan, they go in and implement the plan for the landowner. So, whether it's TSI or building roads, putting culverts, ponds, planting food plots, those two guys, they've built a great business. So as far as the journey, Don gets really frustrated with me because, boy, this is going to sound arrogant. This is one of those comments that people are going to think I'm arrogant when I say it, and I hope they give me a chance to get all the way through the comment before they draw a conclusion. The amount of booners that our whole group is producing by our clients is insane. So I'm talking all of our consultants, not just Don and Wes. The problem is I have other businesses and careers that people look at how much time I'm spending and a perception of, is he out doing land consulting, or is he running this business, or is he selling these machines, or is he doing the administrative work of a foundation? I made the conscious decision when I started this, I am not going to whore out other people's deerhead success to advertise for myself, because I'm taking such a limited account list every year, only doing a handful, only within a geographic radius, that I'm basically hand choosing who I'm working with anyway. I'm not going to go and say, and I'm not blaming Wes or Don or anybody else that does it. I just, because of my other businesses and time management, I can't give the perception that all I'm doing is out doing consulting on hunting properties. And in return, a lot of people don't know the success rate on our side. But us as a whole, I think the properties that I did last year, there's been 6 booners killed on those properties last year. So in just a 1-year turnaround, they've shot booners. So I got a text 2 nights ago from a family in Northwest Ohio that if I could have my Graceland of any property I ever made, there's this one funnel that I put in place and designed it all out. And it was an open field when I started. They shot 6 mature bucks off of that property this year. So as far as that goes, I don't ever foresee me doing it full time like Wes. This is his full time job. He travels all over the country. We kind of pick and choose. Don knows where my skill set is versus Wes versus whoever. There's a team of 6 people now that are doing it underneath of us. And I enjoy it just because I get to meet a new hunting buddy. So the way that I quote my jobs is I have my rate. And basically when we partner and I say, okay, I think I can help you, I'm on retainer for as long as you want me. So if that means I need to come back to your property next year, or I need to help you review trail camera pictures in 3 years as we're trying to figure out what call bucks we're shooting, or buck to doe management, or soil amendments, looking at soil tests, I need to come back after a logging project there's no additional fees. I don't a la carte you anything. So you got me on retainer. And what that does is that forms this bond and this partnership with a new hunting buddy that I get to see and live through their success as they're building their property, their legacy, whether they're flipping a property or whether they're doing it for their grandkids to enjoy. And when you're only doing a handful of those every year, man, you meet some really great friends that that I'm really, really privileged to be connected with. And then being able to use that to look at guys as solid as Rich Hickson or Austin Razor or Stephen Polk and say, I'm going to drag you along with me and connect the dots for you can bid these jobs to where you can build your business through
Right.
our connections and start
Well,
helping
and the
them
client
build their
trusts you
legacy.
by,
And
yeah, you building that warm connection. I mean,
so that
I'll
comes
never forget some
that
of the
comes with
stuff
a
Wes asked me to
responsibility.
do. I had no clue what to,
But
I mean, it's like, it's tough.
that comes with a responsibility for me to make sure the people I recommend are legit, right?
Yep,
But
for sure.
if I can network with those people and then bring those other businesses to where now it's a blessing for their family. Rich has got 2 kids out there, helping him. Austin's got 2 little kids. He's been able to build, both of them build their business to help provide for their family. And if we can be a small portion of making them more successful, again, it's not about me. I don't want I have enough business ventures that I don't need to be out consulting. It doesn't pay one bill for me. But if I
Yeah.
can be out there and help network with people and put them in touch with the right people to accomplish their goals and also bring other businesses along with me that's where, man, you start seeing the exponential growth of the kingdom. Flat out. That's what happens.
Yep. Amen. So, this is a simpler one. I want to end with how has your season gone this year? Terry, I know there's a ton of topics, and if you think there's something we could touch on before we both go our separate ways today, I'm all here. I'm curious about your hunting season and also want people to know how they can get a hold of you. But if you've got something that comes to mind, let's go.
We can talk about a hunting season. I do like to close out with one specific thing, and that's bragging about my kids, but I'll save that for the last piece, if that's okay.
Sure.
Um, Hunting season this year. So, um, if everybody hits pause on this and goes to Chasing Giants TV and watches the King David hunt, this will make a lot more sense. So, basically,
And
I'm in
is
that
it free?
transition.
Chasing Giants? Is it a YouTube
It's
channel or is it a?
YouTube channel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Don at one point had that Whitetail Master Academy that was a paid prescription, but I was never involved in that business venture. So this is our YouTube channel. So go to Chasing Giants with Don Higgins or Chasing Giants TV. Joe Miles, we just dropped a video of Joe Miles' 204-inch South Texas buck today. So it's up there. There's all of our hunt
Nice.
videos, all of our habitat videos are all up there. It's got everything from me decking out my hunting trailer, getting ready for season, to killing a buck. But go watch the King David hunt on Chasing Giants YouTube channel. And it talks through basically my journey. Where I'm at with my journey right now is I really like the challenge of killing a specific buck that you have a history with. And finding that buck, passing that buck, and it's even more challenging when you're out of state, not hunting your property. So it becomes a lot easier when you take advantage of your projects where you're buying up property and keeping it in the family, managing and habitat. I'm basically searching 3 states for a particular buck I want to target, and then I go after it. So last year, actually in 2023, with all this commotion going on in my professional career, I had a buck I passed for 3 years that blew up into a mega giant and died of EHD. And then
Yep. No, I know that feeling.
plan B Plan B was, about everybody in Southeast Ohio knows that feeling this year. So then plan B was hunting a buck that was ranging over about 8 miles north of Don's place. So it was just grinding for like 16 days straight, hoping that the rut brought this buck through. So that's the story there. So coming off of that last year, that grind, man, it was like, this is really cool when it happens. It's so frustrating while you're navigating it. It's really cool. And I'm at the point that if it takes me 3 years to put that story together, I'm okay. And I got pictures in July on a permission track of all places, out of all this resources that we have with our own ground, on a
I'm the
permission
exact
track
same
in
way, man.
Illinois. I get pictures of a giant. I mean, a giant. and he disappeared a little bit right after Velvet, came back in October, and I'm like, I'm killing it. I'm hunting this deer. So luckily the farm is big enough. It's a permission tract that I've hunted on and off since 1999. That I'm going to dive in, and this is the only buck I'm killing. And a lot of that just comes with my journey. It's some guys just want to go kill a mature buck every year, and that's totally cool. Some guys just want to go kill a buck every year, and that's cool. I don't care. But what kind of like gets me excited is identifying one deer and going all in and accepting the frustration if it doesn't work out. So, I got up to Illinois to hunt that huge cold front that came through basically a week and a half earlier than what we'd seen in a long time in October. Get up there, unhook the trailer, and I'm rushing because I've got there early enough to go hunting that night. And I pull up and look at my Wise Eye cell camera app, and he's standing at the scrape in front of the stand I was going to hunt that night at like 2:00 in the afternoon or 1:30 in the afternoon. It's before the time changed. So still well before I would have been in the stand anyway. And I'm like, well, great news is he's there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's there
Yeah.
in daylight. The next day, the 24th, I didn't have the right wind. Couldn't get back in there till the 25th. That farm is big enough. I had stands set up for that deer in every wind direction on every side of the bedding cover. Corn was still in the ground. It was replant corn.
Yep.
Some of the last corn that they planted because of the drought or how wet it was. And then we had the drought.
Yeah.
I go in and I hunt this deer every single day. Past there was a 164, 166 10 pointer in there that I passed like 6 times within 12 yards, and just watch him walk through because I wasn't going to shoot any other buck, and I didn't care what weapon I shot him with. I was even going to kill him with a gun if I had to. And that picture on October 23rd was the last picture I got of him. Still have not seen the deer on the hoof. Never seen him in person. I'm going off of 20, 22, 23 trail camera pictures that I have. So he's big enough that if he would have got shot, I would have heard about it, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
Unless he was poached. So yeah, it's just keeping my trail cameras out, making the move back in. I'll be able to hunt late season if I need to. But yeah, I mean, I haven't shot anything, but it's not because I didn't have a chance. I mean, we were able to be on a lot of really good deer this year. I could have gone to other farms that I have, but it's just what it sounds kind of crude, but it's what tickles my pickle at this point. It's what gets me excited and gets me what I enjoy out of it. It's so frustrating going through it. It's
Dude, I cannot tell you how intimately I feel what you're saying right now because I am the exact same way typically. And I am, like I told you
and then
earlier.
you question yourself. It's just, you question yourself. Should I just go back and hunt like I used to, where I go find, and if I see a buck that I think's a shooter, I shoot it. Should I go back and just say, I don't care if he's 115, if he's mature, I'm killing him. Should I go and you start doubting yourself and playing with those emotions? I mean, it's natural. And, at this point, man, deer hunting has provided so much fulfillment outside of the hunting itself for me, with the consulting side, the Lester's Feet side, the business side, that I told my wife, I told her, I said, at about November 18th or 19th of me sitting in a tree in Illinois and not being around her, I'm like, I'm ready to spend time with you in Florida. I'm ready for a
Yep.
break. And,
Yep. I know what you mean.
and then I'll be ready to hunt again as soon as I come back up there. But yeah, this season, I considered a huge success because of 2 things. Not because I harvested the target buck, or that I even know if he's still alive. I mean, he could be dead for all I know, or he could be just giving me the annual pattern I need to kill him next year. Who knows? But there was 3 very strategic things that I did differently on the downwind side of a bedding area that worked unbelievable, that I'm going to be able to give to my consultant clients. And I'm going
you
to,
can't give them
and
yet,
I'm
or
going
you're
to,
giving them.
oh, I will give them to them. So future clients, I'm going to use this technique for them. I'm going to draw it up and and anybody that I've done a past plan for, I'm going to email them and say, hey, I tested this and it worked unbelievable. If we need to adapt your plan, if you're interested in implementing this, I can either come back by and we'll look at it, or I'll redraw it up for you. It's that cool of something that I watched unfold. Because when you're sitting there in different wind positions every day, not many people get to hunt every day like Don and I do, right? When you see how it unfolds day after day after day, and how deer are using it to put you within, I'm not talking bow range 40 yards. I'm talking bow range 12 yards. And you see it unfold in front of you, and you have the video. I mean, I'm running the big camera. I self-film just like you do. I'm running that camera in there and can show, look how this deer used this way. And it's not a gimmick. It's not a scent. It's not anything like that. So I think it was a
So
very
you're going to make
successful
us sit here on the
season by
podcast
those.
and not know what it is. You're going to force
No,
us
I'm
to
not
not know
telling.
what it is.
If I do that, then if I do that, there'll be 14 different YouTube know-it-alls that reproduce a video that it's their idea and take claim for it. And no, I'm keeping this one a secret. My
So
consulting clients are going to be the ones to be able to benefit from it.
let me make sure, though. Just let me make sure, Terry, that it isn't the Hunter Specialties Acorn Cruncher Mimicker. It's not. It's
No,
not that.
it's not.
Okay. Dang
No,
it. Okay.
it
I
it
was
has to
convinced it would
do
be
with the
that.
difference. Well, it has to do with understanding what a mature buck versus a immature buck is using the wind during the rut, how they're doing it differently. And time after time after time, seeing what a mature buck does versus what a 2 and a 3-year-old buck does.
I think I
Everybody
know,
and their
but I
brother
love
could have
this.
killed a 2 or 3 year. Everybody and
I
their
love
brother could
this.
have
Yeah,
killed
I'm not
every
going to.
one of those 2 or 3-year-old bucks.
Once we
Yeah,
go
so
offline, I'm asking
and
him, and you
it's just
guys, you'll have to call Terry, and he'll tell you after you do the consult.
yeah. No, it's just it's again intellectual property you develop, by trial and error and ideas.
Seat
Some of
time.
them work, some of them don't. And now I can say, look, this works, and it works under these conditions, not all the time at certain times of the year. But if you're sitting on a tag, November 2nd through the 18th, if we do this to your property and create this, whether you want to call it a rut funnel or but we create this environment, especially on a morning hunt, man, is it fire. And if there's a buck there, good likelihood he's going to be within bow range. So yeah, I think it's been a successful season, a frustrating season. I got to hunt with Emerson Day for 3 days. Man, she sat in the stand all day, sets 3 days in a row. You wouldn't have thought a professional musician that would have been able to do that. Her and her husband sat in a tree stand all day, sits 3 days in a row. She's hardcore. Got to hunt with them. Yeah, I mean, man, I'm living the dream. And killing a deer isn't part of the dream. It's the
Yep.
experience. I mean, how many people get to say that their mentor's their best friend and he teaches you everything you know about deer hunting, and that you're able to impact people's lives through your businesses. Don and I counted up on our Thanksgiving episode. I don't know if you've watched our Thanksgiving episode yet, but I counted up. There's over 40 employees between Don and I's businesses that we have now. Isn't
That's
that crazy?
amazing. Yeah, just the ripple effect. I literally
So
talked about
between
this just the other day with another entrepreneur, that you taking the risk and you pushing and you chasing the things that God puts in your life unlocks blessings for other people that are praying for that to come into their life. And if you don't go
Yep.
and chase, that's what happens. You're preventing someone else's
And that's what
blessing.
we
And I
hope,
take that
and
seriously.
that's what we want to do that the same, not just our employees, but other companies that we believe in, like the Rich Hicksons of the world, like the Austin Razors of the world. It's they're building their brand. And my only ask to them is, hey, pull somebody along with you.
Yep.
That's how we grow. That's how we do this. Somebody did that with me when I was really young, telling me to go back out and work second shift or work in service and learn the business and connect me and let me set. They told me not to talk, but let me sit in those meetings with these guys that I learned so much from the business world. Do that for somebody else.
Yeah. Amen. So this one's the easiest one. This is the easiest question of the entire podcast. Terry, you'll have to come back on. This has been a real treat to be able to connect with you today, and I appreciate your patience. You guys don't know this, but Terry has been navigating my silly hunting schedule because I am out here in the Orange Army in Illinois, and he's been trying patiently navigating my schedule. Now I feel a little less bad knowing that he's either just sitting by the pool or he's deep sea fishing or whatever, but still yet he didn't have to do that. But Terry, how do people connect with you? What does an ideal client look like for you today?
For consulting? Or
Heck,
for
I
what?
mean,
Which business?
I think it's going to say there's probably multiple avatars. So if you want to cover all the ones that you find interesting.
Well, so to follow us, there's three main platforms you can follow us. Obviously, Chasing Giants podcast with Don Higgins is the flagship of all things. The listeners that we have of the weekly podcast, that drops every Sunday morning and focuses on habitat and hunting techniques for mature bucks. There's a lot of guys that hunt public that even though a lot of what we're doing is habitat development, you can still kind of get ideas from Don through that show. But it's really centered around what we're doing 365 days a year to set up what we want to do for our hunting goals. And mine are different than Don's, and we openly talk
Yeah.
about that. The second platform is our YouTube channel called Chasing Giants TV. And this is another business model that I set up for our buddies to use. And it's basically we pay a full-time producer to edit video. And guys who are wanting to get into the industry and self-film, but they don't have an outlet to use, instead of saying, hey, to be on this pro staff or to be on this show or whatever, it costs this much. I
Yeah.
basically say, as long as you're using real world wildlife stuff and you're in Osseo camo, I will pay for the full production cost of your video and give you revenue sharing of whatever it makes. So it's no investment cost of people trying to get into the industry and have a place to show their hunts. So guys
Man,
are
that's
able to
awesome.
use that. So Chasing Giant, yes, a completely different business model of anybody in. So you can use whatever bow you want, whatever gun you want, tell whatever story. I have ultimate right of saying we're not showing this because there's a beer can in the back or there's, somebody dropped the F-bomb or whatever. But if so there's guys that approach us and say, hey, I really want to film. I got this great hunt. I do have to pay for the production of it. So I do have some sponsors that help bankroll it. And one of
Sure.
those is
Yeah. Makes
Osseo. So
sense.
we just put a really good deal for Osseo camo in place that it's the price point to participate in this is really small for the hunter. And they can make their own footage and they don't even have to be an editor. We pay a full-time producer that makes these videos. We put them out there. And if it goes viral, you get a cut of that revenue. You don't have any upfront cost on it. So it's a great way for different hunters to show their story, whether it's successful or not, but also habitat projects. We do year-round videos. So guys are out planting soybeans or miscanthus or doing TSI work. There's all kinds of videos in there. Rich Hickson did a tree planting video one time and submitted it. So that's an awesome YouTube resource. There's sometimes up to 3 videos a week that get dropped on our YouTube channel. That's either hunting, habitat, or something.
I love it.
The
That is
third one
amazing.
is So the third one is another podcast we just released this year. We've only done 25 episodes. My dad, who was a minister for over 50 years, retired from the pulpit ministry. He is one of the most well-respected theologists in the country in the Restoration Movement, which is the Christian Church of Christ, churches. And he's a Bible college professor at 3 different seminaries and Bible colleges teaching theology and different preaching skills to young ministers. and we employed my dad to do another podcast called Chasing Assurance. So kind of a spin off of Chasing Giants, but this is Chasing
Yep.
Assurance
And I love
to
it.
understand the true assurances we have through Jesus. And we do that show weekly. So it's more of a religious podcast. But my dad's such an easy talker. I mean, it's awesome. He's going through a series right now about divorce, trying to encourage folks that have been affected by divorce. What does the Bible and Jesus and the apostles really say about it? Not what the church has said, because there's so much judgmental stuff out there about, divorce and especially remarriage. So he's on a 4-part series of the topic of divorce right now that we've gotten a lot of really good feedback from folks. So Chasing Giants podcast, which is on all audio platforms and YouTube, the YouTube channel itself, which has hunting videos, and then Chasing Assurance, which is on all of the audio platforms, and all of it's on the same YouTube channel. You don't have to go to different places. Lester's Feet Foundation, my ask of everybody there is, if there's a family in your church, if there's a family in your community that has a need with a sick child, just connect with us and we'll take care and walk you through how you can help navigate that with one of our volunteers. And we try to help more people. We want to grow Lester's Feet organically through the communities and through the churches, not be on a database of welfare with the federal government. We want this to be an outreach of our local churches. I have a new thing. Do you want this to be the exclusive release of some news on your show?
Dude, I mean, let's go. Literally. I mean,
I
release it.
haven't even said this on Chasing Giants yet. So Chasing Giants is now entering into a partnership with another organization called Boone Brothers in Kentucky that will be rolled out into other states into soon. But it partners with the Hunters for the Hungry initiatives that are in each state where you donate your deer. But Boone Brothers has partnered with a group of people that makes deer jerky, non-refrigerated deer jerky, and from the donated deer meat from hunters. And then they're backfilling all of the backpack programs that churches are doing to feed hungry kids that don't have food when they go home and they leave school.
Amen.
So
That's
it's like this
awesome.
full circle. So yeah. So they're working. So John Weiss, the senior minister at the Southland Christian Church in Lexington, Kentucky, he's retiring from the pulpit. He's transitioning full time to this. And it's an app-based program where you can donate your deer, find your local processor, but there's content similar to our Sunday night prayer time that's there every day to minister to deer hunters. So you're all going to be able to. We said we're going to feed spiritually deer hunters while we feed food to children. And so that's I'm very excited about that new partnership that we've worked on over the last couple months and getting ready to roll out. Huge facility. I think there's going to be a lot more intertwining of Lester's Feet Chasing Giants with Boone Brothers as we go. There's a lot of states that this is going to be rolled out into in 2027, but currently we're feeding around 2,500 kids a week only off of donated whitetail deer from hunters, while we're ministering to them with their faith. So
I love that.
it's
I
a
love that.
very cool project that I'm working on. I'm really excited about that. So yeah, my public position with Real World and Green Prairie is more of a business administrative side. So those are the 3 areas you can. If anybody wants to buy a CNC machine tool, I'll be glad to talk to them about that. But
That's
I'm
awesome.
just kidding.
Well, I mean, the last part that I think you again, here we go. You guys get to see what I mean. The last part that you forget to mention is that if they're in your service area, they could potentially have you do a consult on their farm.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, here's the best thing you can do is if you're interested. So if you go to higginsoutdoors.com or Chasing Giants, it goes to the same place and you click services. It talks about the consulting services of our umbrella, which is under Chasing Giants. Reach out to Dawn and tell Dawn what you got. And Dawn, from an unbiased perspective, will say, based on where you're at, what you want, this is a better job for Bobby Worthington. or
Yeah.
this is a better job for Terry or Wes, and let Don be the guy that says, I want to connect you with it. If you want to, I mean, hopefully I have enough credibility at this point that people know that if I don't think I can do what you want to do, I'll tell you and connect you with who I think will. But Don really facilitates, and it's not just Terry gets the second call, Wes gets the third
Right.
call, Bobby gets,
It's not round
he
robin.
tries to he tries to look at what is the need of the company customer. What's the topography? I do a lot of the hill country and a lot of the bait state stuff
Yeah.
because we found, that's just where I'm at. I'm going to take a couple jobs out of my normal range. So in Missouri, Oklahoma, and Texas, because we're going to do some on the way to that hunt in January that I don't normally do. But while I'm on the road, I might as well do them. You can call me and I'll be honest with you, but if you're interested in that, reach out to Don, go to higginsoutdoors.com, click services and reach out to Don and say, hey, I'm interested in a consult. And then Don will recommend, say, I really think Terry would be your best choice based on your location. Or I really think that Tyler, our partner up in Pennsylvania, or Wes, or there's 7 of us now that do this. I think 7
Yeah.
or 6. And then go from there. I don't like this that's why I don't, man, I think it costs me business by not posting these bucks that my clients shoot. But when I got as much as I want anyway, it's not that big of a deal. And I don't have to worry about the perception that it gives me with my other businesses. Or if one of my clients wants to post something and tag me on it, that's great. But I don't want to like pimp out their success. It's not my success. I just help them put the plan together. If that makes sense. Maybe I'm just being
Yeah.
weird about it. I don't know.
Well, I mean, if people have been around the industry long enough or on the sidelines of it watching, it's very uncommon for people not to pimp every single aspect of a successful hunt out to the nth degree that they can. I
But
mean,
it's
this is
tough
all
because I don't want
monetized. It's
people to think
crazy.
that. Yeah, I don't want people to think that my customers aren't killing big deer too. So it's kind of
Yeah.
a catch-22. So if you I can provide you referrals. So let's just leave it at that. Call Rich. Rich has implemented, or Austin have implemented so many plans of mine that they can see what's worked. So
Yeah, Rich speaks very highly of you, and Rich is another guy in my inner circle that if Rich says it's legit, that's all you got to ask. And he speaks very highly of your guys' time together. He's told me multiple times, just yell at Terry, man. You need to yell at Terry. And I keep, and it's because you're just so available. And so I'll have to okay that with my best friend Wes first, and make sure Wes says no before we can play ball together. But if you know of a farm, if you're a listener and you've looked at a farm that I have, or you have questions about a farm I have, send it to Terry. I don't even care. Send it to him. See what he
well,
thinks.
the thing
I'd
that people
love to
have
put
to
content
realize is
together.
whether they get Wes or I or Bobby or any of our consultants, you're getting a Higgins plan. He's
Yeah.
trained all of us, and then our plan has to go get certified by Don before we can give it to you. So
Yep.
Don picks those plans apart, and he's like, wait a second, this ain't going to fly. And he actually gives pushback to us on some ideas that, he doesn't just put a rubber stamp and mail it out. It's his name on it. So you better believe that it's going to follow what he wants to protect. If anybody's protected and concerned about their image and their integrity, it's Don.
Yep, for sure. Well, I think it goes without saying, you and I could talk for hours and hours. We never even covered, which we'll do this on another podcast. I'd love to have you come back and talk about what it is like in your life to think of who are the people that come to mind, or the instances of your own journey that come to mind when you think of legacy through land, and how land, I'm sure for you, the stories of those pivotal moments in life and those life altering moments. Usually for me, they were all, especially with my grandpa, they were all centered around dirt. They all started with dirt. They all started with memories from dirt. I want to leave dirt for my own kids for memories. I want to create, everything for me that I think you've done so well of talking about in the last couple hours here is, if you go back to the root of things, it starts with dirt. Your guys' love for what we do with dirt, your friendships through what you've done with dirt, that your friendships through the experiences you have on dirt, and it all goes forward to what you have talked about and seen today. And so We'll do this on another episode. I'd love to hear from you though, just kind of what those are always the fun stories, the defining moments of your journey that you think of. What is legacy through land? And usually there's people or instances that come to mind. But I appreciate you being able to be on here with me. And for the listeners, if you've listened this far, thank you for going through this with us. Go check out, if you haven't already, I find that very odd, but if you haven't already checked out the Chasing Giants podcast, please do. But you have to still come listen to mine after you've checked theirs out, so that you have to promise that much. But I'll leave you be in sunny Florida. Terry, I'd like to connect in person though sometime soon. So I appreciate you being on
Yeah.
here and look forward to more time together.
Glad to be on. And as I close out, it's such a refreshing thing to know that somebody else is out there talking about their passion with land, but doing it, giving glory to God and understanding where our relationship with Christ needs to be. So, as the listeners, if they have made it this far, instead of listening to my garbage and talking and how many times I said ums and ahs that maybe AI will take out, maybe it won't. There's probably 364 of them by now. If you get to this point and you hear anything from Tyler or I about our life, it's that your relationship with Christ is the most important decision to give a legacy to your family. You
Amen.
being a person that mirrors what Christ wanted us to do with our life. We can provide a legacy of a business. We can provide a legacy with ground. But if we're not providing the spiritual legacy to anyone that's in our circle, whether it's our kids, our grandkids, or people around us, we're not providing the true legacy that really matters. And that's all of us reuniting with each other in heaven one day. So if you want to talk more about that, I would much rather you reach out to me. And let's talk about a prayer concern that you have, or an issue that you have that you're struggling with, that we can put either myself, my dad, Don, someone around you to pray with you and talk with you. I'd much rather talk to you about that than deer hunting or consulting.
Amen. Amen. Well, I will have to, I'd love to do something together in person sometime. So when we find
Yeah,
the
we can do
time to
that.
do that, when we find that time, I have a farm in north of Louisville that I go and hunt. So maybe on my trips to the Bluegrass State, we'll find time to get together. But thank you again for being on here. Thank you, listeners. We'll see you next
My
week
pleasure.
on Legacy Through Land.
And that's going to wrap up this week's episode. If you're finding value in this content, we'd love to hear from you. It'd mean a lot if you could share with us how this podcast is helping you on your journey, and let us know of any topics you'd like us to cover in the future. Be sure to connect with us on all social platforms at Legacy Acres Land Co. and subscribe to stay updated on when new episodes drop. We hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of the Legacy Through Land podcast, and we'll see you next week.